So I've been looking to create a fougere on camera almost as long as I've had a channel. It is one of the classic genres of perfumery, and I decided to wait till summer because I wanted to do specifically a mint-based fougere, because Minty Fougères are a summer standby. Well, it's 107 degrees in Las Vegas today, and I am glad that I chose the project I did, because I am going to be making one of the coolest perfumes I have ever made. A Minty Fougère that I like to call Echo Summit. Now, Echo Summit, if you don't know, is the summit you go over coming into South Lake Tahoe from Highway 50. It is absolutely glorious. You can see down into Christmas Valley, where there are many craggy rocks and wonderful old burn areas that are very visually interesting. But then you look up and you catch sight of the lake past the airport, and it's really quite glorious. And it is cold up there because Echo Summit is at like 7,800 feet. And when you're coming down the other side of it, there is no guardrail at all, just this old WPA stone wall that has chunks blown out of it and is not even there in large chunks of the direction anymore. And so you come down into Lake Tahoe, and Mark Twain called the air in Lake Tahoe the very air the angels breathe. And so I want this perfume to capture the notion of Lake Tahoe as the very air the angels breathe. So what makes a fougere? The base of a fougere is always oakmoss, lavender, and coumarin. Coumarin is a chemical that was originally derived from tonka beans. It's now made synthetically, and it is not allowed in food because if you eat it, it will cause kidney damage. However, traditionally tonka beans were a food item. And so in the late 19th century, the perfume Fougère Royale was come up with, and it mixed oakmoss, coumarin, and benzyl salicylate with lavender to make a fougere fit for a king. And that became the base of old-fashioned barbershop colognes. So I wanted to give this a Tahoe twist like I do with a lot of my other stuff. And so I deliberately made it mints that grow in Tahoe. And Tahoe has a marvelous assortment of oddball mints that grow in the place. Geranium is not native to the area, but Chinese geranium is definitely a yard plant that you will see in people's yards. High altitude lavender grows everywhere in Tahoe. There's plenty of moss in Tahoe. I'm using cedar moss that I have left over from juniperus. So the cedar moss will have a fairly strong impact on the texture of the fougere, making it rougher, more western than the traditional fougere. It still has plenty of Evernil in it, and it still has synthetic coumarin in it, but it's a little bit more natural to have some actual tree moss that isn't an oak moss. Also, I am using hyssop again, which grows wild in Lake Tahoe and is also a common yard plant up there. I will be using a variety of mints because there are a variety of native mints like spearmint and wintergreen, both grow wild up in the Lake Tahoe area. I will also be including a couple of small last-minute additions of pine oleo resin to stick down the other materials, and also to give a little more of a Tahoe vibe to the idea of the fougere. And I'm also going to add just a tiny bit of rose to back up the geranium and make it smell a little bit more exotic than regular geranium. Check it out. So welcome to Perfumery Log, the show about taking control of your fragrance life through the power of essential oils. I'm Jack Durst, and I will be blending you a Minty Fougère called Echo Summit today. Echo Summit behind me is one of my favorite places in Tahoe, and it's one of the best views in Tahoe. You look down on the lake from a very high height coming into the valley, and to me that means going home. And so we will begin from bottom to top as usual. Two. 0.08. I can live with that. Because this is backed up by some cedar moss. And cedar moss is a much more powerful, much darker moss. So the Evernil is bright and synthetic in a kind of unnatural way for the fougere. Where this stuff is 1, 2, I need 4 drops, 3, 4 drops. That makes 0.06 of a gram. And at 50%, this is the maximum amount of that I'm allowed to have in there. Okay, coumarin. Some to what they should. Now moving up the list, we will get to geranium. Okay, I am going to add 0.6 of a gram of Rose Absolute. This 10% Rose Absolute will make the geranium smell more natural, even though it's natural already. Will make it smell like a slightly different kind of geranium that's more typical of Tahoe too. And if people can discern a slight rose note, okay, I'm fine with that. Rose notes are luxury, people say. You would not believe how many things have a slight rose note just to make the other florals a little easier to handle. Okay. So, 1¼ grams of geranium. Exactly. Who says you gotta be slow? That is like the lucky shot of lifetime for a perfumer. Okay, next we get into our accord of 0.4 of hyssop. And 2 grams of cardamom. Dissolve yet. It's going to be a very gritty perfume if we can't get all the materials to meld together. Okay, so next we need half a gram of juniper berry. .25, .42, .49, half a gram of juniper berry. Lovely. Quarter gram of citron. Tenth of a gram of pine oleo resin. And now we're reaching a dilution at which the Evernoe has finally let go and disappeared into the mix. Good. Now we can unbox our pennyroyal and inject some controversy. So pennyroyal is a kind of controversial note to include because it has safety issues. Besides pennyroyal having unusually strict IFRA limits, pennyroyal can also be dangerous to consume, especially for pregnant women. Pennyroyal is a known abortifactant, and you should not consume it if you are pregnant or looking to become pregnant, because you can lose your baby from being exposed orally to pennyroyal. Pennyroyal is safe to use on skin as long as you're careful about the IFRA limits. And so pennyroyal is one of the few camphoraceous mints that can last and last. It smells kind of like hyssop. It's got a hyssop-like note. It's also got a corn mint-like note in it. It's kind of got a wintergreen-like note. And it does grow wild in Tahoe. Intrepid hikers have been making teas out of it for years. So you can make tea out of the actual herb and it won't kill you. But pennyroyal its essential oil must be handled very, very carefully, because pennyroyal is an abortifactant, and pennyroyal can also be toxic to the liver and kidneys in the wrong amount. Okay. But pennyroyal has a long, long history in perfumery, and fun fact about pennyroyal, it was originally the mint that Romans would use to strew around graves to keep the decomposition scent of the dead bodies from getting too disturbing. So back to the other angle of me editing. Unfortunately, my good angle has gone by this point in the shoot, so you'll be stuck just watching my hands. But the IFRA actually allows quite a lot of it in perfume. Okay, so I need 0.3 of a gram here. 0.25, 0.29, 0.30. That'll do. Little goes a long way with pennyroyal. Now, after that injection of controversy, just a teeny bit of blue yarrow as a dye. Just 0.1 of a gram. It's not a very strong flavor, or, well, I mean, you could flavor with it, I guess. It's not a particularly strong scent, but it's a very, very potent dye, and it turns your perfume a lovely blue-green. So I've put some blue yarrow in because it grows wild every spring in the summer in Tahoe, and because it will make my perfume nice and green once I dilute it in the bottle. So now I verified that I have spearmint, wintergreen, spearmint. Well, my other camera pooped out. You're gonna have to make do with whatever it takes on this camera. Sprayer all picked out. Okay. So, stay tuned to Perfumery Log, and sooner or later you'll find out what happened to the perfume I blended today. Check it out.